Housing in the Bay Area is insane, and I know because I live here. So today we're going to talk about the value of being able to leverage what's probably your largest asset class, which is your home, by building an accessory dwelling unit. But of course, the number one question everyone has is, what does an accessory dwelling unit cost to build in the Bay Area? So we're going to answer that question for you and also help you think about how you can financially analyze this decision to see if it makes sense for you. So first, I just want to briefly touch on why cost per square foot numbers are completely irrelevant in this discussion. And we did a whole video on breaking down ADU costs and how to think about it, so you can check that out here. But generally, the cost per square foot numbers vary wildly. And the thing you need to know is that the larger you build your ADU, the lower your cost per square foot numbers are going to be, because you can start to tap into some economies of scale. And the smaller your ADU is, the larger your cost per square foot numbers are going to be. So that's really the core thing you need to know. But I do want to give you a sense of, okay, but like, what can I expect for my project? If you're not going to tell me cost per square foot numbers, how can I get even a ballpark estimate if this is realistically within my budget or not? Okay, so as of 2022, garage conversions start at about $150,000 for a project. And if you want to build a standalone ADU, you should really factor in that your costs for a project are going to be about $300,000. Those are two really, really rough estimates, but at least that gets you thinking, okay, this is not going to be a $50,000 project. So what are some other factors that impact cost with a project? Believe it or not, there's probably things in here that you haven't thought about, and one of them is timing. So a lot of homeowners get through the Christmas and, end of the year holidays, and then spring starts coming and the weather gets nicer and they start thinking, okay, now we're getting into spring and summer, now I want to start my project. And so there's actually a seasonality to home building. And if you can be, zigging when everyone else is zagging, you can potentially catch designers and contractors in the off season, which can bring down the competition and potentially lower the cost, or at least the timeline of when you can get your ADU on their schedule. So if you're starting your project in kind of October, November, December, it's a great time because you can really build most of the year. The next thing to think about is the upcoming recession. So obviously interest rates have been rising. People are very concerned about, the stock market plummeting and, going into a new recession. And so one of the really interesting things about that is if you look back at data from the housing crisis and the crash in 2008, what happened with ADU or accessory dwelling units in Portland, which had a well-established market there, we actually saw permits increase dramatically during that recession time. And it was because people were looking for financial stability and other avenues of cash flow and income during their projects. The other thing that we saw that was really fascinating during that time period was that a lot of general contractors' core business, which was kitchen and bathroom remodels, like elective remodels, started to pull back. And so those general contractors that a lot of their business was made up of the kitchen and bath started going out of business. And so when we talk about timing, if you can time your ADU, again, if you're zigging and everyone else is zagging, it can be a great time to explore a project because general contractors aren't competitive. So we can see, potentially see labor costs come down. So it can be a really great time to explore your ADU. Obviously, there's also a lot going on with the supply chain. And so, lumber prices have been fluctuating wildly, although they have kind of stabilized and come down now. But we're dealing with all of these supply chain issues coming out of COVID. So how does that impact a project? One thing to keep in mind is that when you start your ADU journey, and you start the design, it's going to be 3 to 4 months until you're ready to submit for permit. Once you submit for permit, depending on the city and the jurisdiction that you're operating in, it can be anywhere from 4 months on the fast end to 10 months on the slow end to get that permit. And so what's going on with supply chain now, by the time you're ready to build, might not actually be something that you need to consider as much. Finally, the last factor that you're probably not thinking about is changes that you yourself dictate. So we had a client that went into a project, decided that they wanted a studio because they wanted to convert their garage for as low a cost as possible, got through all of the design work and were ready to submit for permits. And then they thought about it a little bit more and said, you know what, we would actually really like a 1-bedroom instead of a studio, and we want to go back and rework a ton of work. Now, if you're thinking about building an ADU for a rental and you have to now spend, another $10,000 redoing all the design work that was originally done, but you also lose 4 months in the design process that you have to repeat, that's 4 months that you didn't get your rental on the market sooner. And so a lot of times there's hidden cost and factor that factors into the cost is just the changes that homeowners make. So that's something to also keep in mind. One of the things that we've been doing regularly that I really, really love, and I think homeowners have responded very positively to, is hosting ADU events and tours across the country. And so I'll put a link below so you can see our event schedule, and maybe there's an ADU tour coming up in your neighborhood that you can go around and check out units. And one of the things we do on all of our tours is we put the full cost breakdown of those units so that you can check out exactly what the price points were for different general contractors and designers' work. Now that I've given you a sense of kind of a very rough ballpark of where different types of projects start, let's think about how to analyze this financially. So I went onto Zillow and I looked for empty plots of land in Redwood City, which is where I'm going to show you this example ADU that's really lovely. So I looked for plots of land and I searched for a $300,000 plot of land in kind of the Redwood City, Palo Alto area, and there were no results. I searched for a $400,000 plot of land and there were no results. And I searched for a $500,000 plot of land and there were no results. And I searched for a $600,000 plot of land and there was one result. It was in East Palo Alto, right off the 101 freeway. And coincidentally, this is what the lot looked like. The point of this exercise is to show you that you can't even buy a blank parcel of land in a somewhat undesirable under a freeway pass location for less than $600,000 in the Bay Area. So if you frame the fact that for $300,000 you're getting this gorgeous, beautiful, rentable ADU on your property, suddenly the price tag doesn't seem quite as scary. Now, the next thing I did in the analysis is I said, okay, but if you think about it, people are probably evaluating whether they should, buy a condo or build an ADU, and what's the difference in financial feasibility between those things. So again, I went back to Zillow and I checked out condos. And in the general area of kind of East Palo Alto to Redwood City, I searched for a condo for $300,000, nothing. Condo for $400,000, nothing. Condo for $500,000, nothing. Condo for $600,000, nothing. A condo for $700,000, finally we got a hit. And this is what it looked like. Now, let's juxtapose this ADU project, which was a garage conversion that we expanded the roof line on. So they did a whole loft in the top, and then they did a bunch of gardening and landscaping, and the total cost came in at $234,000. And we have a link so that you can see the full tour of this unit. And we actually have a YouTube video on it, which you can watch here. Now, think about the value that this unit brings to that homeowner and how much they can rent that unit out for every month. And the fact that they already own the land was a huge financial incentive for them to be able to build. Now, this particular homeowner rents this unit to her daughter at below market rates, which is fabulous. But what if she decided to rent it at market rates? What would it rent for? So we went and looked at Rentometer, which is a great tool to analyze what rents are going for in your neighborhood. You could also look at Zillow or Craigslist, for example. We put in the street address and we can see that this unit could rent for $2,600 a month. Now, let's assume that this homeowner decided to finance the entire project out of pocket. So she spent, she took out the $234,000 loan to do the project, and now she's paying on that loan plus interest every month. With current interest rates, which are quite a bit higher than they were even last year, with current interest rates, her monthly payments would be $1,300. So if we take what she could be renting market rate at $2,600, we subtract $1,300, she's still left with $1,300 in cash flow every month off of her rental. Plus, there's been a huge appreciation in value on her property. So again, it can be really scary to kind of see these upfront numbers and go, gosh, these are big six-figure purchases. And it's true, they are. But when you break down kind of the financial reasoning behind it, they can still make a ton of sense for families. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm Caitlin at Maxable, and if you're interested in other tools, tips, tricks, case studies, we have tons of information on MaxableSpace.com, as well as lots of cool videos on YouTube. So make sure to subscribe.